How did it feel for you, Em, coming to terms or exploring the idea of surrogacy? Like, what was that experience?
My immediate answer is kind of like, I think I approached it in a few different ways because I think I had to process a lot of grief at first. Like, not only did we lose that baby, but I also lost the future of being able to have a baby. And there was a lot of grieving, not only the baby we lost, but a big part of me and something that I thought that my body should be able to handle. So I think that's always going to be an ongoing thing as well. I don't think that'll ever be fully done, but I think I had to do a lot of that first. And then throughout that, I also it really reaffirmed for me that I know I want to be a mum and I know I'm going to be a mum, and it's just a bit different for me. So the idea of surrogacy is something that just felt natural.
Hey, I'm Loz McGlynn and this is Yeah the Gals, a podcast for the ones doing the juggle. I'll be chatting with women in the thick of it, those taking big leaps, and experts with the insights that we usually type into Google at 2 a.m. If you're winging it like me, you're in the right place, and I am so glad you're here. Let's get into it. Thank you so much, girls, for coming in and having this conversation today. Already starting to feel a vomit cry coming on.
Yeah, I know. Me too.
This conversation's been a long time coming. Phoebe, you and I met when I was about to have my daughter, and now we're sitting here and you're in the exact same position that I was. Sure. This is an incredible story, and I also just want to say, today's International Women's Day. Fully crying already. International Women's Day is today, the day that we're recording this, and this could not be more of if this is not the definition of women supporting women and coming together.
She's gonna get me.
I don't know what is. For those listening, welcome Phoebe and welcome Emily. Today we are talking about surrogacy. Phoebe, you are currently being a surrogate for Emily, and Emily, you are about to welcome a beautiful boy into the world in a couple of weeks. Phoebe, how far along are you?
Well, 39 on Monday.
Wow.
So, yeah, super close.
We're cutting it tight for this recording.
Yeah, that's right. I go over with my pregnancies. I'm expecting to go over with this one. So maybe it could be a baby delivery in the studio.
Who knows? Waters could break. We're in a cool environment. So let's just see how we go.
Make happen.
Yeah, I love it. But we might kick off with the first of all starting, how did you guys meet each other? How did you, what's the backstory of this friendship?
We actually had to ask each other that because we can't I don't think I can pinpoint a day where we met.
No.
Yeah, so I suppose the time we became friends was one of my friends from high school, Andrew, I call him Blanky. He met this girl at uni and he was head over heels with her immediately. And then he invited us over to his house, I think at Tumby, and we walked in and we met Phoebe. And then I looked at her and I'm like, I know you. And we'd known each other because we'd played netball against each other.
Yeah.
Probably for a couple of years.
Easily, yeah.
And had some mutual friends from netball as well. So we think we've probably known of each other since we were 15, 16.
Wow.
We got to know each other when we were 18.
18, yeah.
Yeah.
I'm dating at 18.
Yeah.
And so both so Emily, you're really good friends with that's
Andrew.
Lanky. That's Lanky.
Yeah.
We're
I
gonna
like to tell people he was my year 10 formal date, actually.
love that. Love that.
Yeah.
So that's, you guys have had cross paths along the years, but then become
Since 18.
Yeah, and then become really good friends over the years through each other's partners. And then your partner, Dom, was he a part of this little circle? Or
Yeah, he was. Yeah. So I went to school with Dom and Andrew.
So have known each other for a really long time. What, when you and Dom just sort of decided that you wanted to start looking into your own family, what did that look like for you guys?
Well, we have been together since we were 21. So we'd been together a long time. And we'd kind of decided at the start of 2021 we would start trying to have kids then. And I do have a liver condition, so I knew that it would probably be a bit tricky for me. But that was kind of what we agreed to, and we were really excited about that. So we started trying and we fell pregnant immediately. I think the very first time we actively tried. And then we were really, really excited. But then when we started to go to our doctor's appointments, my liver function wasn't doing too well. And I won't go into all of the details. There's probably a lot to it. But basically the doctors started to tell us that it was too unsafe for me to stay pregnant. So they honestly didn't think I would survive the pregnancy. Yeah, I have some blood vessels that dilate in my abdomen, and just with the pressure, the space a baby takes up, the increase in blood volume, how everything relaxes a bit, they were just really worried that those blood vessels would rupture. And once that happens inside the big blood vessels in your abdomen, we wouldn't know until after the fact. So it was really hard to hear all of that. It was kind of really theoretical and hard to make it seem real, but they were recommending that we terminate the pregnancy. And we were having a really tough time making that decision, as is understandable, I think, because of something we wanted. And then one day we were OzTag and I started bleeding and we went to the hospital, and I had a high-risk obstetrician there, and he said the time to make a decision is now past. You're going into surgery today. And that was the day we lost our little baby, who we called Pipsqueak. So that's kind of where we started. And then we started to look into, it took a while to get our head around that. I think I was probably depressed for like a good 6 or 7 months after that.
I'm really sorry. That must have been so hard.
It was. Wouldn't recommend it to a friend. Wouldn't recommend it to an enemy. I wouldn't recommend it.
10 out of 10
Yeah.
not recommend.
Yeah, absolutely.
Sorry to interrupt. With your liver condition, is it something that you knew about when you were to start trying for a family, that this would come up? Or did you not know what would happen?
We didn't know exactly what would happen.
Yeah.
We anticipated, and we'd kind of been warned that it might be tricky. But that was kind of the extent to which the conversation was had. So it wasn't until we were then pregnant. Like, generally, I'm quite healthy. My body just doesn't handle hormones well.
Yeah.
So I originally got sick from being on the pill when I was like 17. And that's where they think all of those issues started. So being pregnant, the hormone changes.
Yeah.
Hormones just don't agree with my liver, unfortunately. So I can't remember who it was that talked to us about it, but it must have been one of the doctors. They kind of said, look, your options to be parents or to start a family, like adoption, fostering, or surrogacy, they were kind of the only options, because I can't carry a pregnancy. So that's when, the start of the year after that, I kind of set a New Year's resolution, and I was like, okay, I'm going to start looking into IVF and figure out how we might do something like surrogacy. And I think this is how it came up between us. So I'd jump in if I get any of it wrong, because I could say my side, then you can say what actually happened. We'd been talking to my friends about it, and like I'm a big chatter. I like to tell my friends everything, and told them that I was interested in this kind of thing. And then, as good friends do, I think they were all then talking about me behind my back in a really lovely way.
Yeah.
And so they were all kind of talking about, Em and Dom might look at doing surrogacy. And then I had a friend say, have you spoken to Phoebe about this? And I was like, oh, no, I haven't. And she's like, okay, well, she has a friend who's a family lawyer who maybe could help you out in that area. So then I messaged Phoebe and I was like, your friend, does she know anything about surrogacy? And then I think Phoebe said, no, she doesn't. However,
I think
I'm interested.
Yeah. Which I literally think I was like, you can use my womb if you want.
Yeah. So it sort of started as a bit of not a joke, but just like a general conversation.
So I had, the background to that is I had spoken to, and went through a really dark time, and it was really hard to watch as a friend. There were friends who had babies around that time. It was really horrible watching her suffer and Dom as well. So we had always been speaking about it, being like, this is brutal. And then they mentioned like, oh, they're looking to surrogacy. You were talking about Canada, like, because Canada is really it's easier, I suppose, to do it in some respects. And so I was like, oh, she's not moving to Canada. I'm like, I've had my babies. I'd had already discussed surrogacy. My beautiful sister-in-law and brother-in-law had some trouble. And I had said to them when I was finished having my family, I would do the same thing for them. But fortunately, they had my beautiful little nephew. And so it was always in the back of my mind anyway. And so I was like, oh, I'll just chat to Em about it. Like I would do that for her. So when she messaged me, I was like, okay, the girls have been working their magic in the background.
Puppet masters, I think.
Literally.
Yeah, they're like, just do this.
Yeah. And so I offered it. And then it was probably like a week later, I took Andrew, my husband, we went out to lunch on a rare date day that we don't have that often with two kids. And I told him, I was like, hey, just so you know, I've offered to Em that maybe I'll be her surrogate. And he burst into tears. He is a softie. Like he's 6'5". He's a giant, absolute softie. And he was like, yeah, we're doing it. Like if you want to do it, let's go.
Yeah. How did it feel for you, sort of like coming to terms or exploring the idea of surrogacy? Like what was that experience like?
That's a really good question. I've never thought about that actually. My immediate answer is kind of like, I think I approached it in a few different ways because I think I had to process a lot of grief at first. Like, not only did we lose that baby, but I also lost the future of being able to have a baby. And there was a lot of grieving, not only the baby we lost, but a big part of me and something that I thought that my body should be able to handle. So I think I did that. That kind of had to, I think that's always going to be an ongoing thing as well. I don't think that'll ever be fully done. But I think I had to do a lot of that first. And then throughout that, I also it really reaffirmed for me that I know I want to be a mum and I know I'm going to be a mum. And it's just a bit different for me. So the idea of surrogacy is something that just felt natural. I don't know. One thing as well, I might need to fact check this, but I think I got the understanding from somewhere that you can either look into doing surrogacy or adoption at the same time. It's hard to do both, and it's not recommended to do both.
Okay.
Because you've got to protect the people involved. Like if I was, for example, with Phoebe, if I was also looking at adoption and then we got that child, does that then impact Phoebe and the baby she's growing for us? So there's some legalities around it, I think. So, but surrogacy just felt like the natural.
That was the path that you wanted to take. Yeah.
And at first I was interested as well in that, more so because I wanted to see if I could have my own biological child. I wasn't able to do IVF. So my sister actually offered to donate her eggs to us. So they'll still be in the family. I'll be related genetically in some way, but
you guys are like two peas in a pod. So
that is so interesting. There's like another person or another partnership that is a part of this.
Yeah,
so like because of your liver condition, you weren't able to, you spoke about not being able to like handle hormones.
Yeah.
And so having to go through, obviously, with IVF, there is a lot of hormones, injections. So you were told that wasn't an option for you either. So that's like a whole other layer.
I think that set it back a bit too.
Yeah.
Because I think at the start of our conversations, it was your regular.
We were hoping that.
And then, so we had a bit of a gap. Sorry to see the microphone. Had a bit of a gap where you had to process that. Like I think there's another layer of grief, obviously.
Yeah, there was.
I mean, Em has like been like destined to be a mum from the time I've met her. She's got so many nieces and nephews that she always had around her. She used to joke about not planting a certain herb because she was worried she'd fall pregnant because all your sisters planted it and pregnant.
Yeah.
So it was always
plant parsley, guys.
Yeah.
So it was always in the back of my mind that she was going to be a mum. Like there's no other way. So
it is so interesting too. Like I've had this conversation before, like a different scenario, but like myself and my husband had a lot of fertility issues. Both our two daughters are IVF babies, and it's like you go through like your teenage years that it's just a guarantee and it's almost so avoidant. Like you avoid so much, like planting parsley, or my mum used to say like, don't put your shoes next to your partner because you'll fall pregnant. Like it was just this whole association of it's so easy. So you sort of like, there's this preconceived idea that the process is so straightforward.
Yeah.
And I don't know if it's because we're having more conversations about it now, but there are so many people I've spoken to that, if not infertility issues, like I know a couple of people that are exploring surrogacy, and there's so much being spoken about it, but then there's so much that people don't know, and there's so many different layers. Like for you, there's obviously the emotional side, then there's the processing, the psychological side, then there's the legal side, and so many things to it. It's a huge process. So I very understandably that you needed a bit of time to process and like work out what that was going to look like for you. And so it sounds like the conversation was a bit like, oh yeah, I'll do it. And then Phoebe, you've gone to your husband and been like, I'm doing it.
Yeah.
And so then for you, like, what was that like? I guess Phoebe, for you, how did you approach him and be like, I'm going to do it?
I can't remember the last conversation. Well, not the last. The next conversation following that. Did you guys come over to our house? Is that when we rolled the oranges down on the table like that?
I think so.
Yeah, that's some weird context. Anyway, but yeah, I think we just had a chat about with all four of us, with Em and Dom and Andrew and I, and just spoke about what it would look like, because I had my two amazing children by that point, and Izzy would have been 2022. She was end of 2019. She would have been like 2 probably. So Andrew and I knew the second that Izzy was out that we were completely done, and so I think we're just like, let's just start looking into it more. I think Em's been like so like practical, I suppose, and logical the whole way, whereas I'm just like, let's go. I'm just kind of a spontaneous, let's do it, no holding back. And Em's like, no, we need to, there's a lot of processes involved, which I was not prepared for. I didn't realize it'd be so like rigid and structured.
Yeah.
But I mean, it is for a reason that it is.
Yeah.
And so in my head, I was like, okay, I'm going to be a surrogate now. Like, we're going to get this baby. I was like planning the end of the year. I was like, yeah, it'll be, by the end of the year. And then it's like 2 years rolls around and we're still doing the process. But
so you guys just sat down at a table
Yeah.
and you were like, let's do it.
yeah.
Yeah, I remember that because a lot of this happened during lockdown,
Yeah.
like in COVID time. So when we came up to see you, it was, I don't think we'd seen you in person for ages because it was just hard to get around, and we live in Sydney and you guys live on the coast. So that was the first time we got together, and then we actually filled them in on everything that we had gone through. And I think all 4 of us probably cried around the table.
Yeah,
and
right, because I had only really heard bits and pieces from girls, because it was like,
there was a lot to it. It was hard to.
and then it was COVID.
Yeah.
And then
Let's just add another layer.
yeah.
And you had babies later after.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
And so you guys have had that conversation, and then has your sister come to you and said, I will use my egg as well?
Yeah. So I think one thing I'm really aware of is we've been really lucky, Dom and I, throughout this process. Like, I think the average timeline is 4 years or so. We had, before we'd even really started, we had someone saying, hey, maybe I can do this for you. And then my sister said, I have 2 sisters, and the oldest one was like, I'm so sad I can't do anything for you. And then the other one said, you can use mine. Like, I've got spare eggs. Like, go have them. So we were so fortunate that we never had to really wait for those things. Like, people came to us with those, which I can't imagine what it would feel like to not have those things kind of given to you on a platter like we've had.
So incredible.
Yeah.
It sounds like you've got so much love and support around the both of you, which is just so amazing, because I can imagine that's like such a needed foundation for everything that was to come.
Yeah.
What was next? Like it was so fascinating to talk to you originally, Phoebe, around people might say, oh yeah, I'd totally be a surrogate. Like, I have people that are like, yeah, I would be a surrogate if I needed to. But what does that actually look like in Australia from a legal perspective, and also the psychological side as well, because that's a process too, isn't it?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, I think the very first step had to meet with the IVF team. You can probably talk a bit more about that. And then I think the very first thing I had to be cleared medically as fit to be a surrogate. So I had to have had no like previous complications with my pregnancies. And if I suppose if there were complications, they might have had to just do a bit more investigating, but I was fine. And then there's a whole bunch of counselling and like full-on psychological assessments. The thing that surprised me is it wasn't just me, it was also my husband Andrew. So he had to have all of that as well. So we had to have individual counselling, firstly, to make sure that it's something that we weren't being coerced into and that we really wanted to do, and that Andrew felt comfortable with it and that I felt comfortable with it. And the same for Beck and her partner, and then Em and Dom as well. So all 6 of us had to have individual and then couples and then group counselling as well. And that was the counselling to be signed off that we were all fit to go. And then we had to have psychological assessments, like proper full on, to make sure that we're fit. That I'm fit to carry, and then I'm not doing it for the wrong reasons. Any history of mental health, I think pretty much rules you out as a surrogate. In speaking to other surrogates, things like postnatal depression, if we had a history of that, it would almost automatically rule you out. I mean, there might be some people who are able to like delve into that further and be ruled to be fit to be a surrogate, but it's actually quite tricky. It's not easy. Some really in-depth testing, so much paperwork.
So much paperwork.
I remember answering.
And who facilitates all of this? Is this all through IVF, or is this,
Yeah, so we started with Janaea and then moved to IVF Australia. And that was because of a recommendation of a fertility specialist that was really great. She's actually been on other podcasts. Her name was Cheryl Fua, and a friend of mine had done some egg freezing and really thought she was great. So we went to her and went, this is the situation. And then Janaea and then ultimately IVF Australia, they help facilitate it, and they kind of tell you what needs to happen at different times. I did find, because it is such a long process, there were times where I had to chase them and just be on top of things as well. So I did feel like it was like a project I was running.
Yeah, it was like a full-time job.
It was, yeah.
That middle part when we'd had the embryos and before the transfer happened.
Yeah.
That was a lot.
Yeah, there was a lot to it. But they do guide you, and that's kind of their area of expertise.
Yeah.
So
did they, and like it was the Janaea counsellors we saw first, and then or were they independent?
Yeah, so we had to do counselling first through Janaea, and we had to do that for the egg donation and surrogacy. So that's when my sister and her partner, Dom and I, Phoebe and Andrew, all had to do the counselling, and then that could start off the IVF for Beck and the egg retrieval. And then we had to do, separate to that, the independent psychological assessment, where we had to find a psychologist to assess all of us, just the 4 of us. So Dom, me, Phoebe and Andrew.
Did Beck not have to do this?
She didn't have to do that. So then, we had to find someone and we ended up finding a great counsellor. She was awesome. We really liked her. Yeah,
that would be so important for this, right? Like somebody that can facilitate this
she had
discussion.
been in my position.
So Em's what we call an intended parent, so an IP in surrogacy speak. So Em and Dom are the intended parents and I'm the surrogate. So she had been an IP. So she had been in Em and Dom's position, which was so helpful because a lot of the psychology stuff after they do all the testing and they clear it, she gave a lot of advice. And I was like, what can I do to make this easy for Em and Dom? Because like it's going to be a really huge process. And she was like, well, after your assessments, I see that you don't accept help easily, Phoebe. So the best thing you can do is accept Emily's help so that she feels involved in the process. And I don't know how good I've been at that. Because she said, like, you know, and that would nothing I would have ever thought of. She was like, honestly, the best thing you can do is allow her to do things for you that she would do during her own pregnancy. And I was like, oh, I would never. I was like, I want this to be so easy for them. I don't want them to have to like do anything extra.
What great advice.
Yeah, such good advice.
I'm sort of piecing together that you're a bit of a nurturer, helper, like I can do everything and I want to help everybody. Emily, would you agree with that?
Yeah, and I'll just add to that. While she's been pregnant, so Phoebe and Andrew also own their own business and run their own business. They also moved house in January, so 2 months ago they moved house. So they're not great at sitting still.
That might be the ADHD.
That's a whole other episode.
I know. That was a very spicy household. So yeah, we can't sit still.
Yeah.
Yeah. It felt like a lot of the time, but now I'm like, oh, it was easy.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I also, I trust Phoebe. She's a really capable person, and anyone who's ever met her knows how capable and strong she is. So she doesn't always need help. If she needs help, she'll tell us.
Yeah.
But I have had to go to her husband a couple of times and just be like, tell me the secrets. What do I need to know? And he's reached out to me once or twice too, to just been like, she doesn't want to tell you.
I see now.
Yeah, he has. Yeah. So in a really loving way,
I know it would have been
to be like, just so you know, it's not a problem, but she doesn't want you to do something for this, but it would be really cool if you did.
Yeah.
So it's been that's why I think, the boys are included in all of it, because it's like a real team effort.
Yeah, absolutely. And then even from the practical perspective of going through the IVF process and then the embryo transfer.
Yeah.
And were you at all these appointments? Were you there for all of it? Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
The only things you weren't there for were the blood tests.
Yeah.
Is they were 3 times a week at one point, crazy.
Yeah, when you were very first.
When just before the transfer.
Yeah.
When they were tracking my ovulation, because what I didn't know, I kind of just assumed that as a surrogate I would have to have all the hormone treatment that you hear about when people are going through IVF. I didn't have anything. They literally just tracked it with blood tests, tracked where I was up to with my ovulation cycle, and then I had to have a progesterone. What's it called? Pessary. So that was it, and so that was so simple on my end. And so just regular blood tests, and it was weekly and then 3 times a week to track it till they got the day, and then it was literally okay, so you have to go to Sydney on Saturday for your transfer because that's the right timing.
Wow, because obviously Beck would have gone through all of the hormone therapy, so it's everyone's playing their part in all of this.
Yes.
Was there anything that came up unexpected through that screening and the practical process that you hadn't thought about? And then we'll talk about the legal side of things as well.
I think the legal side is what surprised me the most, was with the who's on the birth certificate and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
Because when the baby is born, Andrew and my name is listed on the birth certificate. And I kind of expected my name to be on there, but I didn't expect Andrew's name to be on there. And legally, we can talk about that further, but legally, the baby, until the parentage order takes over, is if anything happens to Em and Dom, or any decision has to be made by myself. And so that I wasn't prepared. I knew that would be me, but not for Andrew and I. Not that it changed anything, but that just surprised me a little bit and shows you really have to trust who your surrogate is.
Yeah.
Which is why it's probably really, I wouldn't say it's rare in Australia. I think last year there was 200 surrogacy births. But it's, something that surprised me. I think that's probably that, and me not having to do much in the lead up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was good.
Yeah.
There's a lot of paperwork, I suppose. That's not unexpected, though.
Yeah.
One thing always jumped out at me. I've always remembered it. There's 2 kind of quotes that I've kind of remembered throughout the whole process. And the first one was from a webinar I watched before you were a part of this. And the person facilitating it was a surrogate previously. And she just said, just remember that as an intended parent going into it, your worst nightmare is that the surrogate will want to keep the baby. She's like, but on the flip side, the surrogate's biggest nightmare is that you won't want the baby and that they'll be stuck with it. And I had just never, I'm really glad I heard that at the start, because it really just sets it up that it has to be a really trusting relationship 2 ways. And I think that's, it's just a quote that's just stuck with me the whole time, because I don't think you probably think of one side but not the other, but having them both there from the start was really helpful.
The most common question when I tell people I'm a surrogate they go, oh, how are you going to give the baby up? I'm like, I am giving this baby back. I do not want this baby in any capacity. I love this baby for you. Because I like, it's so, actually, that's probably one thing that surprised me the most is my lack of connection. It makes me sound really cold, but I have forgotten I'm pregnant. In the early days, I forgot so many times I was pregnant. I was eating soft cheese being like, whoops, not supposed to eat this. Because I didn't have that same emotional connection. Like, physically I'm pregnant, emotionally Emily's pregnant.
Yeah. And that was what the counsellor that we love said to us. She's like, you're going to be physically pregnant, but not emotionally. You won't be physically pregnant, but you will be emotionally and mentally.
It sounds like from what you guys have said too that Phoebe, like you had made this decision well before you even had the conversation with Emily. So that's probably like one part to it.
Yeah.
And then it sort of solidifies the importance of all of this, like the counselling and stuff that's required before. Because I'm sure obviously one of the things is like, does that counsellor believe that you can sort of not disassociate, but that, you know, you're not like fully emotional in that way. So yeah, it all makes sense. It's just, I guess until you're in the situation, it's not something that people think really like quite deeply about. In Australia, it's quite different to other countries, right? So like in other countries, my understanding is that you can pay to have a surrogate, but in Australia, that's not the case. So I would assume, like, and tell me based on the research that you guys have done, but most surrogates would be a friend or family member. Is that what you've found in Australia?
Yeah,
I think it is. I think it's like 80%.
Yeah, I mean, but we say, like, that's the stats that I read, but then I'm in a Facebook surrogacy group, and there's, like, not a lot of us in Australia at the moment. However, there's probably other surrogates who aren't in that group, but a fair few find their way there. And a lot of the time, it's also just people, like, either work colleagues, friends, or just, like, putting themselves out there and saying, I really want to be a surrogate, something I really want to do. And there's a Facebook group. In Australia, one of the rules is you can't really ask someone to be a surrogate. You can, and you can't advertise. So in all the Facebook groups, no one can say, and no one can approach a surrogate. So a surrogate can't say, hey, I want to be a surrogate, and have an intended parent contact them and say, oh my God, would you do it for us? An intended parent has to put up their story, and a surrogate has to approach them and say, hey, I've read your story. Let's meet up for a coffee. Let's have a chat. So it really protects the surrogates. There are laws that are changing, I think. But at the moment, there's absolutely like no money in exchange. It's completely altruistic, meaning it's just a gift. Emily and Dom can be responsible for the costs of the pregnancy. So all that ultrasounds and all that sort of stuff Emily and Dom have had to pay for. And like there are some surrogates who will ask their intended parents for money to put towards like clothes if they need new clothes. Basically anything that comes up because of the pregnancy. I've heard of some people asking for like electricity money to cover the cost of air conditioning, which I just think is wild.
Wow.
But there are probably more situations where they're not friends and family first. Like I have not wanted, like I struggle to accept help anyway, but it's never been my intention to go into this trying to gain anything from it. I just can't wait to see them holding him.
Yeah.
That is the only reason I would do it. Yeah. So I think in Australia, the surrogates are protected really well.
Yeah.
And yeah, overseas you can pay for surrogacy.
Yeah, it is. It's so interesting.
Yeah.
I guess the other part to it is you guys are in this, you're doing it together, you are all on the same page, but from the outside, like friends and family, talking to them about this in both of your experiences, what was that like? First talking to your like extended family that this was the path you were going to take.
Well, because our friends and family, they knew what we had gone through. So we've had nothing but people be excited and happy for us. I still remember when I told my little brother, who is friends with Loz's little brother.
In the studio right now.
When I told Will, he burst out crying, and he's like 5 years younger than me and just a boy, and he was just so touched by it. So that's what I've experienced. It's been a little bit fun at times confusing people at work, especially when I was finishing up and they were like, you really just don't look pregnant at all. You're holding it so well. And then I'd be like, oh, not.
But I'm going on that list.
Yeah, so it like there's been, I suppose, some confusion from people when they're not aware of what's going on, but I've not had any negative comments said to me. Everything I've had is really lovely and supportive, and the awe, like for people in my life who a lot of them already know Phoebe, but for the ones that don't, she's like this mythical creature to them. They're like, who is this goddess that is doing this for you? What an amazing friend. And that's been something that's been a really lovely part of it. Just like, I've got this whole fan club for you. If you ever need it, you need a cheer squad, I can source a group of people for you.
I love it. I love it. Yeah. Well, that's actually how this all came about, is because a friend of yours, Phoebe, who's been on the podcast, Katie.
The lawyer that we were chatting about.
Yeah, Katie was like, you need to meet my friend Phoebe. Like, and this was when you guys were just about to start it. So absolutely love that. And that, you know, I said it earlier before, but it just sounds like this has just been a total love bubble of support the entire time, which must help with this whole journey, which is so good. Phoebe, what about you? Like, I guess having to, like, in a way, you're like donating yourself to an incredible cause, like it goes without saying. But yeah, was there anybody that sort of was unsure about why you had decided?
Yeah, I mean, my beautiful mum, I love her, and she's so team surrogacy now, but she was so nervous for me. And it came from a place of anxiousness about me being, well, my daughter has autism. I shouldn't say has autism. She's autistic. I hate when people say autism. My daughter's autistic, and she transitioned to school this year. So she started school, and the timing of it, Mum was always really worried. She's like, how are you going to like care for Izzy at the same time as carrying a baby? And that was like a whole bulk of her anxiety, I think. And also just being like, you know, childbirth is dangerous. Why would you do this for someone else? But like, she very quickly got on board. She loves Em and Dom. She can't wait to meet the baby. But there was some hesitancy there from her. And I'm a people pleaser. And the amount of like willpower it took me to not pull the pin just because I felt like I was letting my mum down was huge.
Wow.
But I would never have. That would never have been the reason. But there was so much like thought process in my mind being like, am I doing the right thing? Am I doing the right thing? As a mum, you have so much guilt around being able to provide your children all the time that they need. And there was a lot of times where I was like, oh, is this going to take away time from them? It hasn't. If anyone's ever worried about it, like, it's really added to their lives. My kids cannot wait to be calling Bob. He's not going to be his name, but when we didn't know the gender, Izzy, my daughter, named her Lulu. And so it's going to be Lulu. We called baby Lulu forever. Then when we found out there was a little baby boy growing in there, the kids were like, oh, well, that won't do. And I was like, Lulu's still fine. But who was it, Finn? Who suggested Bob? No, he said Dave.
He did say Dave.
Anyway, Bob somehow came along and it stuck. And they kiss him, cuddle him, talk to him every night. I don't know how Bob's going to survive in a quiet household because my household is crazy and they constantly talk to him. If they're crying, he will kick my belly. Like, honestly, it's wild. And so I don't know if he's like, let me out and help them or tell them to stop whinging. So it's only been like such a blessing to their life. They love telling everyone that I'm growing a baby for someone else. They totally understand it as much as they can. They're 5 and 7, but there's no hesitancy on their end. And I think my mum seeing them be totally okay with it has also helped that process.
Is that something you thought about going into this? Is like, what is this going to mean for them?
Yep, totally.
Yeah.
And Em and Dom actually were kind of like, if you don't think it's going to be okay for them, you're not doing this. Like, they need to be a really big factor in that. But I know my kids.
That was one of my, when we were first properly talking about some details, I think, because I was looking through the messages, that was one of the first questions was like, what does this mean for your family? Because that I think was just our biggest concern was, how do we not impact them?
Yeah.
But now I'm like, this has impacted them, but in a really cool way.
They just see Em and Dom as like part of the family and Bicky the dog.
Have you guys spoken around what this is going to look like when he's here? In terms of the relationship, I guess, that like the kids will have. It's obviously sounds like that you guys are like entrenched in each other's lives the rest of your life. But like, have you guys had that discussion of, you know, what you're going to say to your children when he's here and what you're going to say to your son?
We've talked about it in the sense that we're like, really, they're going to be like kind of like cousins in a way, like that.
They see themselves
They're
as being a cousin.
They're family. Like that's what. It's not sibling, but it's family.
Yeah.
We have, in terms of like what we'll tell Bob, we're going to make sure he knows everything. Like he'll know when and talk to him in age appropriate ways at the right time. But it's never going to be a secret that, you know, we wanted him so much that we needed help from his Auntie Beck and his Auntie Phoebe. And this whole group of people came together to make sure that he arrived here with us. So that's how I see it. Yeah, like I don't want to put like a specific name on anything because that's probably just not my style personally. But yeah, I think it's extended our family. I see like when you were just talking about Finn and Izzy, like, oh, I just said their names. Is that okay?
Yeah, I said their names. It's fine.
Okay.
You don't know, like you.
Like, oh God. But like one of the best things out of that is Dom and I are both so much closer with them now than we were beforehand, and that's been. There are so many like silver linings that have come out of this situation, and it's a really thick, chunky silver lining. Yeah.
And it's one thing that it's just gonna happen when it's here. Like there's things that you just like don't know until you're in the situation. You are technically 1 week away.
Yeah.
And what's it been like watching sort of Phoebe like and going through the actual journey of pregnancy to now?
It's been pretty cool. Like Phoebe's so nonchalant about it all. She's just like, yeah, I'm pregnant. Like I'm just gonna still move this stuff. I'm still gonna move house. I'm still gonna do everything. So she's shown me like, it's been nice to see that pregnancy can be a really healthy, not easy, but
it's been easy.
Like thing you can do that a body can do. So it's been nice. I won't lie. There's been times where it's made me a bit wistful and gone, like if I could have chosen, I would have chosen to do it myself. But this is pretty close second to that. So
I think I was always so conscious of like not wanting to like rub it in Em's face that I could, and like we first transfer, it happened straight away. Both of my children were conceived. Finn was an accident, a surprise, a wonderful surprise. And Izzy was planned, and it was pretty much straight away since we started trying. I'm so fortunate that I had no fertility struggles. I've had no miscarriages. So I felt really guilty that it was so easy for me and trying not to let that. So like if I was like having a day where I was like, I'm in a bit of pain, I'm like, I'm not going to like tell Em because she would give her left kidney to be able to be in my position. So I am really conscious that on the days that it might have been a little bit harder, it actually is so easy for me.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think the first time that you felt him kick was pretty special.
yeah.
And Dom, literally like so cozy. Dom, I love Dom, and I think he gets really uncomfortable sometimes being all up in my grip. But just like being out for them, being able to feel him. And I think I was reflecting on that later, thinking, oh, I wonder how that was for Em, knowing that like that's not what she gets to experience, and she has to experience it in a different way. But yeah, so I can only imagine that those times are like a bit of a sucker punch at the same time as feeling really lovely. I don't know how you felt about it.
I would say like it's always probably there, but it's like if like it's a smaller piece than how excited I am. And
it's so close to the finish line now. It is so exciting.
Yes.
What would you guys say? I'll ask you both the question, but like for someone that is, exploring the idea of surrogacy as a path for them to motherhood, and what would you say, having gone through this and where you are now, what would you say to someone that's like having this, exploring this?
I'd say factor in more time than you think. Maybe more money than you think too. That would be something to think about, like just logistically. I did a lot of counselling after pregnancy loss, so I think that was very helpful to do beforehand, because I one thing I've wanted to make sure throughout this process is that I want to enjoy as much of it as I can. And if I was still processing too much of their sad stuff, it would take away from the fun parts and the cool parts of this. So I would just say, like, yeah, process as much of it as you can before going in. But I also know time is of the essence. And when you want to start a family, you want it to start yesterday. So move at the pace that you have to. But yeah, I would just recommend counseling and that kind of stuff. And yeah, talking to people about it. Talk to your friends. Friends are good counselors too.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Well said. And Phoebe?
Do it. I'm so pro surrogacy. I think so many people say to me, "Oh, I could never do that," and I'm like, "Yes, you could." Like, if it's, I speak to a lot of people and they go, "Oh, I've always thought about it. I've always wondered, maybe I could." I'm so pro it. It's been such a gift for myself, for my family. I am a physio who works with kids, and a lot of the children I work with have disabilities, and them watching my growing belly and hugging it, and I've sent Em some beautiful photos of little hands hugging it. It's only been a blessing, and I just cannot wait. I know I've said it before, but I just cannot wait for that moment when you're holding him. And I just think about it. Everyone talks about, and I'm sure you've had this so many times, be prepared for the no sleep. It's so hard. Like, it's going to change your relationship. It's going to be really hard. Parenting is so hard. It's the most joyful thing in my life. I love my children. I love being a mum, and be able to gift that to someone. I'm so fortunate that I could do that for you guys so easily. And I can't wait for you to experience all of it. I'm just so
same.
excited.
Hashtag is on. So you are officially on maternity leave.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And you were living in Sydney and now you've moved up
Yeah.
to the coast?
Yes. Yeah.
What's the plan? Are we doing like are we just waiting for waters to break? Are we
Look, another thing that's been a bit frustrating for me with the pregnancy process is the hospital really want, because it's technically an IVF pregnancy, they want to induce me.
Yeah.
And they technically wanted that at 39 weeks, which would be Monday. But my beautiful midwife and I have had lots of discussions. I know my body really well. I'm not your standard IVF pregnancy because I haven't had the fertility issues. I've carried 2 pregnancies to term. Like, Finn was 40 plus 5 and Izzy was 41 weeks. So my body naturally goes over. And I kind of want to allow my body the chance to do it itself first. So they talk about wanting to book an induction date. So I think we've said like 40 plus 2 or something, that I really hope I go into labour naturally. And then if we have to, for the safety of Bob, I will do whatever we need to do. But at the moment he's sitting pretty, he's not really like low.
It's a bit too comfy.
Yeah. Honestly, he just keeps moving around. Like, he's not really, I don't feel any signs yet. Although last night I kept waking up having dreams I was in labour. I was at the end this morning, like every hour I woke up and I was like, is that a labour pain? So we're getting to that end where I'm like, well, maybe there's some things happening. But if we can get to like closer to like 40 weeks. Actually, no, he can come anytime from now, really. Like, as long as it's natural.
Yeah, we're right here now. So
it's all ready to go. I just think, like, what 2 amazing women sitting on this couch right now. Like, honestly, like, Phoebe, goddess is a good way to explain it, but like also the strength and resilience of you. And I think you should both be, I'm gonna cry. You guys should be so proud of like what you guys have both done, and also like thank you so much for coming on and sharing this. I think there are people that would be listening to this who may even be exploring this, or know someone that's going through this process and this journey. So is there anything else that you guys want to add before we wrap up? Anything you want to say? Because by the time that this comes out, Bob will be here.
Oh, that's
which is
sweet.
so wild. That is so wild. So anything you guys want to say?
Sucked in. You're in the trenches. I think if anyone is like wanting to know more about surrogacy, there is like a Facebook page for intended parents and surrogates, and you can just search that up. And then there's a private surrogacy group if someone wants to, just because that's a really free open space. So that there's no intended parents in there. So you can really chat really honestly. But just like do some more research. Go for it.
There's lots of stuff online.
Yeah, it's been really amazing.
Yeah.
Everyone always asks me, will I do it again? I've always been like, I'm going to be way too old for that. My mum is loves going to her clairvoyance, and her clairvoyance said, I will do it again and give you a sibling. And I was like, oh, I think she's very wrong on that.
Look, I'm open.
I am very much close at this point. Who knows what the future holds, but no, if anyone else in our friendship group is thinking of doing siblings there, so, but yeah, just go for it. It's been so good.
Yeah.
So good.
Yeah.
And what about you?
Well, I just wanted to say, because I don't think I've said it throughout this chat, but hopefully it goes without saying, like, Dom and I both we're so grateful for our friends and family to allow us to be where we are now. Like, we're very aware of the fact that we can't do this without them. And we're just so grateful. Like, the second that Phoebe offered it to us, that very first time, we were blown away. Like, even if nothing had happened, we were just blown away by the fact that she even the thought had maybe popped into her head. So I just wanted to make sure that I said that on the mic. We're just so grateful. And the other thing is that throughout this process, even though it's different and it's probably not anyone's first choice, because it's different, it's unique, and there are so many fun little bits that we get out of it that you don't normally get. Like, I've never been in the room with any of my friends or sisters when they've had their kids, and we get to do this together. Like, it's going to be a wild time. There's going to be a lot of people in that room, but like, that I think is just so unique and special. And not only, do we get and bob out of this and we get to grow our family, but we get some really amazing memories with two of our closest friends. And this is just, you can never escape from us now. We've got you forever.
Couldn't get away from me if you tried.
The silver lining, like,
there's so many. They come out constantly. Like, it's really, really special.
Incredible. I'll finish off with one last question, and if you could summarize this surrogacy in one word. I don't know if you can, but what would you say?
Like, our surrogacy?
Yeah.
I'd probably can I say 2 words?
Yeah.
I would just say, like, it's ours. Like, I feel like it's not mine. It's just,
I know what you're trying
I don't know. It's just, I don't know if there is a word to it, but it's just something, it's ours, and it will always be ours. And it's the boys too, but it's ours.
The way you guys have been looking at each other this entire conversation.
I was actually in my head going, you need to actually ignore all this shit Laura said.
Yeah, no, that's it. It's been incredible to watch you two talk and hash it out. You go through this, but you probably actually haven't sat down and really spoken from start to finish together like this. So
we did have sorry to interrupt.
No.
We had a baby shower / engagement party, and Phoebe actually couldn't be there for it. She was at a family funeral, but her husband and her kids were there, and it allowed us a chance to also thank them and just point out, like, I think it would be so hard to be Andrew in this situation. He can't control anything. And I just wanted them to feel really, really special that day. And I did see him get a tear in his eye. So
I used to drop of a hat all the time. He cried last night when I was talking about it. Honestly, he's such a softie. I love that about him. He's so emotionally intelligent, but he is just, I think because he has been friends with Em and Don for so long, all through high school. I think for him, A, watching me get so much joy out of it, and B, being able to help you guys. He's just been like, but he has been he hasn't been to any of the appointments just because of work. He's coming to his first one this weekend. So
man, kudos to everybody involved, and shout out to your sister Beck as well, and her partner as well. You guys are freaking awesome. I can't say enough, like, what a privilege to hold this conversation. Thanks for trusting me and coming on and being able to share it. I can't wait to share this with everybody else, and I can't wait to hear about the arrival of
to do a story follow-up.
Yeah, we get part 2, absolutely. Yeah. Thanks so much, girls. You're legends. Thank you.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you.